You are now, as you said at the start, you're in Dubai, you lucky man,
I
which is
am.
fantastic. So, why? How?
Um, I I've always wanted to for a little while. I've always wanted to move abroad and work abroad. Um, where that was going to be, I didn't know. Being in London, I was in London for 12 years. When I moved there for university, and I just stayed. So I'm a city boy really, and I like being in a city. So I knew it was always going to be Dubai, New York, Singapore, somewhere like that. And I'm lucky enough that Terrapinn have offices in all three of those places that I've just mentioned. So from a personal point of view, me and my partner were just thinking about a move abroad. You know, we were in a flat for 3 years, and our tenancy was coming to the end, and we just thought, why don't we do it now? If we don't do it now, you know, I turned 30 last year, and I thought, if you don't do it now, when will we do it?
Yeah. Mm.
And I knew had the potential opportunity to do it within Terrapinn, so I just asked basically. I've had a couple of friends from the UK office who transferred out here, so I asked them. They spoke in glowing terms about it, and once the opportunity came up and it became a realistic option, we just thought, why not?
And did you have to wait long for Terrapin to say, okay, yeah, here's a role, here's a portfolio you can work on? Did that internal process take very long?
Not particularly. I think in my mind, I was thinking something like that could take 6 months. It didn't. Basically, I think obviously I was lucky that at the time I asked, I'd done enough research in the background, and like I say, I had a couple of friends who'd done it, so I did some of the necessary research, probably a little bit stealthily, just to make sure that the questions I was asking were going to be answered. But from the time I asked, it was actually very quick compared to what I think most people might expect. With an internal transfer like that, all I ever received from Terrapinn was help and advice. The team in the UK, as I say, that I made great friends with them, and I was sad to leave them, and they were probably sad to see me go, but they were really helpful in terms of helping to facilitate that, and obviously putting in a good word to the guys here in Dubai for me, and from there it was a pretty seamless operation, to be honest.
Excellent.
So we started putting in the kind of the inquiries around April to May last year, and I moved here in September. But obviously had it confirmed before that. So I think obviously at the time that the cards lined up. But I think I was lucky in a position where my company were good enough to be able to facilitate that pretty quickly.
Excellent. And you mentioned that you moved out with your partner and that you've got friends through the business, through work, that are in Dubai, which is great. Just as a guide, did they help you with finding places to live and kind of sorting out the, things like banks, phones, all those bits? I've just done it with my son in Australia, and that's actually quite time consuming. But did you have support and help with all of those elements?
Yeah, absolutely. We have we've got a contact here in the Dubai office. We've got a very helpful gentleman who works for us who was very open with his communication beforehand, letting me know what I need and when I need it by. So that first and foremost, I could enter the country without feeling like I was lacking in documents, or they were going to question me about why I'm coming here with suitcases in hand and why I've not got a return flight booked and things like that, entry permits, etc. So from that side, that was all helpful and on hand. But then, in terms of looking for places to live and getting things sorted, I just asked. My friends that I've got here were really helpful. My new colleagues that I was working with were all really helpful in terms of what to do and when to do it and when to expect it. All in all, we moved out here. We got some temporary accommodation for a few weeks, and then found a place. And it was roughly 4 to 6 weeks between flying out and having a longer term rental place sorted and moved in. Bank accounts, phones, bills, things like that, all sorted. 4 to 6 weeks.
Gosh,
which is all right. It's
not bad at all, is it?
Yeah, Dubai is an expat heavy place, right? So the systems they've got in place, they are in place because they know what to expect, and they know how to accommodate that. And to that point, everyone here is an expat. Most people here are an expat, certainly who I work with. So everyone's been in a similar position. Everyone's been in the same boat at some point. So just ask the question, and everyone's pretty helpful.
So transferring internally with your company, sort of in the same business with people you've got that support and network around you. So it sounds like it's made it a much smoother process for you. What about socially? What about getting out and doing things outside of work? How's that been?
Honestly, it's obviously I'm probably got a helping hand in the fact that I moved out here with my partner. We're both in the same boat, but we came out, we joined a gym. My partner, she started going to classes every week, so she made friends immediately through that route. I was lucky enough that I've got a couple of friends from university who live out here. I've been here for a few years, so obviously was able to get out and meet them pretty quickly. And then, as I say, all the people that you work with have all been in the same boat. Yeah. So everyone's really welcoming. If everyone understands that when you first move out somewhere, it can be a bit daunting. Coming from London, where I had no, I've been there for 12 years. I had no shortage of social circles and friendship groups and things to do in the midweek and things to do on the weekends. And then you move somewhere and that social circle dwindles to a couple of people. Yeah. That can be a bit daunting. But yeah, as I said, Dubai's full of people who are in a similar boat, and everyone's on hand to help if needed. So it's been great, really. We've been able to,
looking back by the sounds of it.
Yeah. I mean, it helps that the weather's infinitely better.
Don't talk about the weather, please. Not today when it was minus something this morning. Still is.
Probably should have mentioned that it's 28 degrees outside right now.
What about from a work perspective? So you're doing you're from what I've picked up and seen, you're in a different portfolio. So you've had to learn a different portfolio, still selling sponsorship packages and in a sales capacity. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So life sciences isn't a portfolio that we have here in the Middle East. So when the move came around, I knew that I was going to have to, move into something slightly different. A portfolio we've got here, one of the major ones we've got is around fintech and fintech banking, e-commerce. So it was pre-agreed that was the opportunity I'd be moving into. They were looking for someone of a kind of senior sales level to come in and lead sponsorship on particular segments within that event. So yeah, I at the moment I'm leading a part of it. Basically, the events here are on a different scale to what we have.
They're huge. So, they're massive.
The main event that we've got here, it's held in the World Trade Center here, and we're talking 25,000 plus people in attendance. So it's just a slightly different model to what I was working in the past. So here I'm part of a bigger team, I'm a bigger sales team, but obviously still within Terrapinn. So processes are still the same, still the same systems in place, and some of the kind of people in that respect as well. So a lot's not changed, a lot has changed, but it's not with it being an internal transfer. It's not too much of a shock to the system.
If you hadn't have been working for an international company, do you think you would have made the move? Do you think you would have done this?
I would have made a move abroad. I think it was. If you asked my partner, she'll say that all I ever did was talk about moving abroad at some point. Before we actually did it. So it's always been a bucket list thing for me. It's always been something that I was going to do. Where and when that was obviously still up for debate. So I can't talk as to whether Dubai would have happened or somewhere else would have happened, but a move abroad would have, definitely. But yeah, I think from the very start, joining Terrapinn, I was very clear, and I was actually pretty clear with Mark and others in the business that at some point I'd probably want to try a different office at some point. You know, Mark knew that from my first interview, that I did probably want to try that at some point. So I think when it came around and I, you know, sat down with him and went through that discussion and said, look, there's an opportunity in Dubai that I want to explore, I don't think he was too shocked. No. That was a question I was asking.
And I always say, you know, it's part of the conversation we have with candidates when they go forward to companies like Terrapinn is if there's an international office, you know, for the right person, that transfer can happen. That thing you're thinking about can actually become a reality in the right environment. And it sounds as though with Terrapinn, it's literally worked out pretty perfectly for you in terms of the transfer and the great time you've had with them in the London office. I love hearing about the friendships you've made, the travel you've done with people, the connections you've made. It's what the experience alongside work is supposed to be, which is great. Yeah. So finally, what advice would you give anybody else that's thinking about relocating, whether it's to Dubai, whether it's to Sydney, whether it's to Singapore, but to another country? What would be your advice to them, whether it is Dubai or overseas?
Beyond doing the research, and take the time to do the research and utilize the network you may already have, if you do have it. You know, ask the questions to the right people, find the right people to ask those questions to as well. You know, I ask people who I know are like-minded, who I know would, you know, like the same things, and I could actually get a pretty educated answer and derive some pretty educated information from their answers. But beyond that, I probably advise just doing it, which just jump into it.
Just get on with it.
A lot of people never get the opportunity to. If you're considering it and you've got a route to be able to do it, it could well be the best thing you'll ever do. So why not?
Brilliant. On that note, I think we should wrap it up. That's fantastic. Really is. Thank you. Thanks so much for your time. Really, really appreciate talking with you and finding more about your journey with Terrapinn. Awesome. And good luck.
Thank you very much.